What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to the channel and to today's video. In today's video, the title is not clickbait. Is Black Ops 4 the closest thing we have to a Black Ops 2 remaster? I don't know. You guys need to let me know. But anyway, I do personally think that BO4 is the closest thing we will ever have to a Black Ops 2 remaster until the day actually arrives and we have a Black Ops 2 remaster. Now, BO2 in of itself is a game very different to BO4, and I understand that. BO4 is very mechanically different, very, gameplay different. There's a lot of differences like specialists and stuff, but if you take away specialists and the manual healing and you go into like the bare bones playlist, no specialists, no manual healing, and you go back and you scale down to 50, go back down to 100 health and scale back from 150, the game is the closest thing we do have to a Black Ops 2 remaster. Now you're probably wondering, what the fuck is this guy on? Now, I have mainly a few points that I want to list that are going to help you understand why. Now, the first point is going to be the setting, why that's important, and why it means a lot to the game. Number 2 is going to be the weapons, and how they are similar. Number 3 is going to be the camos and the overall aesthetic of the game. And the last point is going to be an overall view summary on how, if some things were changed, how it could be. So, the first point being setting. Now, the setting of Black Ops 4, the game takes place in the year 2045. 20 years after Black Ops 2 and 20 years before the events of Black Ops 3 and its campaigns. Now, BO4 in itself did not have a campaign like the other games, so it was really a hard basis to judge it off, but it does take place after Owl and it is all of those things, and it takes place pre-BO3 specialist stories of the game multiplayer. So, the setting of BO4 means a lot to the game because of its locations it can be in and what it has to have. The game in of itself has to have weapons that are going to be in BO3, but also needs weapons from BO2, and that's what they did. Weapons like the Cordite just is a revamped PDW-57. Weapons like the ICR is just a revamped M27. Weapons such as the Rampart is just a Scar H. Titan is just an LSAT. The Strife is just the 5.7 pretty much, or the TAC 45. I prefer the 5.7. I think that's the closest thing we have to it. The MX9 is, to me, the closest thing we have to the MP7 in terms of fire rate. To me, that's just what it is. There are many different weapons in this game. The Remington, the Mag 12, those things are the same. So those things have to be the same, and that's how you have this setting work the way it does. You have the preview of specialists. The specialists before they had their special abilities that are modifyingly enhanced. Like you had a grappling hook instead of a super sprint in this game. This is compared to the gravity spike, which is now a grav slam in this game, compared to the overdrive, which is just a grappling hook. Vision pulse was also changed from this game to BO3, symbolizing that the game setting takes place before BO3, and in my opinion, takes place in a better era. Modern BO4 and BO2 are very similar games in this regard, in the form of their setting, because they don't take place too far apart, and they mention a lot of the same mechanics, the same storyline, and the same weaponry, similar weaponry. Now, my number 2 point in the weaponry is going to be, like I've mentioned before, the Rampart, Scar H, ICR, M27, things like those. Well, how does this matter into the overall thing itself? Well, the weapons have to match the sandbox, right? So the sandbox of BO4 is a very interesting one, because to me, the sandbox in BO4 is very hard to understand if you're a first-time player. Because the BO4 sandbox has many weapons you can use, but really only uses one part of that sandbox. It doesn't utilize the whole thing very well, in my personal opinion. It uses more of the SMGAR model like the VMP is in this game, and some other weapons like the MX9 stuff. It doesn't do very well with its different variation within the weaponry when you're a new player, just like Black Ops 2 didn't. In BO2, when you're a new player, you have the M27 off the bat, nothing's pretty fucking powerful. Same with the PDW. Those weapons are very powerful off the bat, and that's just what happened in this game. That's also how they're similar. They give you overpowered shit at the get-go. I mean, like, it's broken in this game, and I think that's something that needs to be appreciated about Call of Duty, is as of recently, their games have been a lot of fun, and they've been very similar to older games. And that is why I think this game is very close in its weapon department. Now, let alone in their weapons that this game can have, is weapons that have to be there, such as the AN-94 needs to be there. The grav could be there, makes sense. Weapons that also needed to be there was the Rampart. It's a SCAR variation. It's an improvement on the SCAR H from BO2, which also had weapons like the MTAR, which could be the Maddox per se. Same with the Cordite to the PDW and many others. Swordfish is just a variation on the M8A1 and and so forth. The SDM is just a better M21 pretty much, or an M14, which to me is just a freaking better SMR. There's many different weapons that are in this game that make more sense. Paladin is just the DSR-50, and personally, I don't think there really is a replacement to the Ballista, like the Koshka, but to me, the best weapon is the Locust, which is a BO3 weapon, which was also added into the game. They took the setting and the weaponry that they could do and combined it and made it one great sandbox because it's very similar. They took a lot of mechanics from BO2 with its weaponry department and its ideas, but decided to go more against it in this game, but stayed true to what made BO2 a lot of fun. Now, my third point being camos and aesthetic. Now, camos in Black Ops 4 are very similar to BO2 in my personal opinion, but they did bring back a lot of Black Ops 2 camos that if they were just in the base game, were BO2 camos, such as, I know they brought back the Cherry Blossom, they brought back Donut, which to me is the closest thing we had to a comics camo. They brought back Afterlife in the form of a reactive. They brought back a weaponized 115 in the form of a reactive. Diamond was the closest thing we've had to a BO2 diamond in a long time, and it's my favorite diamond out of all of them. And it is a reactive. They added a gold, and it's reactive, and it's pretty similar to BO2's. One of the biggest things they added into this game that's differentiated it is dark matter after all. But a lot of those things are very similar, and I think it's something that needs to be, it's underappreciated in my opinion. The camos and aesthetic in BO4 is a very good one, and it's very similar to Black Ops 2 in the forms of certain camos that were brought back. Reticles too, they brought back some reticle challenges that are very similar to BO2 reticles. I think there's a lot of things that this game did right that a lot of other games do wrong. I think that's what BO4 needs to be commended on. It's very similar to BO2 in many different ways, but it's also very similar to BO2 in many different ways in its categorization of camos and aesthetics. The aesthetics of the game is a pretty game, but it has some great maps. It seems like it takes place in locations that seem familiar to us Black Ops veterans from BO2 and before. You'll see locations like Myanmar from BO2 in this game. You'll see many BO2 maps. That just adds on to the aesthetic of the game being the closest thing. That's what I honestly think. They added zombies map from BO2 from the beginning. Mob Blood of the Dead, Alpha Omega. We're close. Nuketown in this game is different, but it is colorful at times. The aesthetic of the game is important to any game, right? The aesthetic of a video game is what gives it its charm. If a game fails at the aesthetics, the game fails to meet it. But BO4 and BO2 both met their expectations for their aesthetic that they were going for. They went for a fun, flashy, cartoonish style game later on after the first part of the year, and I commend them for it, just like Black Ops 2 did. It's very similar to that game in those regards, in the aesthetic especially. And that is why I think my third point stands true. So, to end off this last point in a summary style fashion on why the games are similar, if you take a lot of the points I mentioned and you combine them to be very similar, the game in of itself is the same game. But it's also very different, and I'm not going to say BO4 is a BO2 clone because it's really not. It's very, very different. It has a lot of different mechanics, different stuff, different maps, different colors, different things like that on a next generation. But to me, personally, it is the closest thing we have, and that's probably why I love it so much. BO4 brought back a lot of BO2 memories and vibes, in my personal opinion, and I think that is something that needs to be commended. It is a very well-made game that Treyarch put a lot of time and passion into, and you can tell on the multiplayer side. Now, I do think that BO4 did get cut short because of Cold War that releases this year, and I think that has something to do with it, and doesn't really help the game progress. So, BO4 had a lot of things that could have been done better, and I can't deny that. Maps could have used a lot of work. Memorable maps, I should say. There's not bad maps. It's the same issue that Modern Warfare has, where they're not bad maps, but they're not super memorable either. And that's the same issue that a lot of games have recently struggled with. BO4 is no exception. BO4 had a lot of great ideas, but a lot of bad execution. I think the biggest execution of BO4, that's the worst part that did terribly overall, is the weapon selection. It's tried too hard to fit in and be similar, but it also released at the time when Red Dead 2 released. It had a lot of games to go up against, and then 1 year later, Modern Warfare released with Warzone. It really didn't have much leg to grow and stand on. So, in order to finish it off, we need to bring up the last point that I had in mind from the very get-go. And that's the question of itself. Is BO2 a BO4 remaster? Is BO2 the closest thing to BO4? Now you're probably thinking, did he just screw up his words? No. What I mean by this is if you flip those around, you can do the same thing. So BO4 is a BO2 remaster in of itself in certain mechanics, but also isn't. BO2 is BO4 without certain mechanics. It plays similarly. If you just take dolphin diving, you put it into freaking BO2, or to BO4, I mean, that's what it is. If you add sliding to BO2 from BO4, it's what it is. It's a BO2 game. And that's something that doesn't really go to people, and I do want to know what you guys think about it, because you guys are the foundation of all my videos. So I want to say thank you so much for 190. We hit it last night. We hit it today. So I do want to say thank you. If you are brand new, subscribing does help the channel, but I'm not gonna beg you to. I mean, granted, I love you to subscribe. I mean, I'd love to get to know who you are. Go check out the Twitch down below. Most of the videos are captured on stream. If you have a decent time over there, go follow me over on Twitter. I'll be streaming tomorrow as this video goes up. I might even be streaming tonight, not too sure. And if I am, once this video goes live, go ahead and go over there, follow me, and see what I'm up to. One last thing, thank you guys so much for watching the video. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day or night, whatever it is. And I will see ya in the next one. Have a great day.